Good afternoon, good day, everybody, wherever you happen to be joining us from. We're just going to give it one more minute because I can see people making their way in from the lobby, as it were. So we're just going to give one more minute for everybody who wants to join us, and then we'll get underway. Okay, I think just about everyone has now joined us from the waiting list. So let's get going, and then everyone else can catch up with us later on. So thank you once again, everyone, for joining us today. We're going to be discussing hybrid Oracle DR on Standard Edition. We're going to be doing a practical walkthrough today. So I hope some of you joined us last time, Vijay and myself. I'll introduce our resident Oracle ace shortly. I hope some of you joined us last time when we discussed hybrid DR in general and what it means, especially in the context of Oracle Cloud. Today, we're taking the next step, and we're actually going to be taking you through a hands-on real-world demo of what it looks like to set up hybrid Oracle disaster recovery using Oracle Cloud. Very excited for that. So before we get underway, a few simple housekeeping rules. Excuse me. We do have closed captions and translations available. So if you'd prefer to follow along in a language other than English, at the bottom of your screen there, you should have a captions button. Please click that and select the language you would like. Any questions you have as we go, please put them in the Q&A channel straight away. We'll address them as opportunity presents itself during the webinar. And finally, a question we always get at the end is will the recording be provided? Yes, absolutely. The recording of everything that you see today will be provided to you after this webinar. I think that's especially important today because Vijay will be taking us through actual commands and actual process steps. So if anyone wants to review them later, you absolutely can do that. So the agenda today is we're going to very quickly talk about why hybrid environments matter and what a hybrid environment is. And then we're going to kind of get into the meat of the presentation, which is the challenge around TDE and around encryption on Oracle Cloud. We're going to discuss what hybrid scenarios we support with our product called Standby Multi-Platform. And then the main part is Vijay is going to take us through a presentation showing us how to actually set all this up. Before we get into it, so I'm Alex. I'm the head of product and development at DBVisit. And I'm joined today by Vijay, who's our resident Oracle Ace Pro. And all-around star of customer services. So he's been working with Oracle for I think 35 years. Is that right, Vijay?
Oh, 10 years more, but yeah.
some crazy amount of time like that. So hopefully he knows what he's talking about by now. And for just in case if there's anyone who hasn't heard of DBVisit before, so we are database disaster recovery specialists. We've been making disaster recovery software for Oracle for over 20 years. It's the only thing we do. It's something that we specialize in very deeply. We're protecting over 2,000 customers all over the world, something like 35,000 critical databases. Vijay's team runs at, I think, a 100% customer satisfaction average. Is that right, Vijay? Have we gone down to 99?
It's always 100.
It's always 100. There you go. So let's carry on. So before we get into it, let's talk quickly about why hybrid matters. A quick reminder that disasters occur all the time. It's not really a question of if, but of when. This has been true, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. It's equally true today. The things like the cloud do not automatically protect you from disaster, even though they sometimes like to pretend that they do. They really, really don't. The average cost of downtime, as you can see on the right-hand side there from Gartner's, just over $5,500 per minute. That can vary drastically. That's the average. It can certainly be much worse than that even. So it is important to protect yourself from the risk of your primary data source becoming unavailable. In addition to that, disaster recovery is also increasingly becoming a regulatory component. So, and that can be for both compliance with government regulations as well as preparation for cyber insurance, a whole bunch of things. It's disaster recovery and showing and being able to demonstrate how you protect your critical data is becoming more and more important to actually show and demonstrate how your business remediates risk as part of its overall strategy. It's really important that you protect all of your environments, even if they're on cloud, because again, just being on cloud by itself doesn't magically protect you. So hybrid DR is emerging as a very important part of that because of a few things. So the first thing is it gives you a whole range of options when one environment is on premise and another one is in the cloud. Now, whether the one on premise is primary or standby doesn't matter. It allows you to essentially maintain a greater degree of independence between your environments and reduces single provider risk. So if everything is in a single cloud, if something were to happen to that cloud, unlikely though that is, all your environments would be affected. Same thing can be said on premise. If everything is on premise and in the same data center, for example, and you have a power outage to your region, you lose everything. Hybrid DR allows you to make the best of both of those. It also enables mobility between environments. So quite often customers like to kind of dip their toe into the cloud by first creating a secondary data source there. And having a hybrid DR environment allows you to do that really easily because you can move your database from on-premise to cloud and back and kind of try different things. Try, how's the performance, how's the cost per benefit, and be able to adjust as you go. Let's go to the next one, Vijay. It allows you to set up a high resilience out of region standby. Again, if you're on cloud especially, what you quite often get is some sort of high availability solution where your database might be shared within the same region. Now, that's not true disaster recovery. As I said, if you have a disaster that impacts the whole region, then you might find yourself unprotected. Using a hybrid standby approach allows you to set up a standby that is geographically distinct. And finally, I guess the important one is that second from the bottom, the lower cost issue. So it's quite often quite cost effective to set up a new environment on cloud if your requirements are not extreme. Running a standby typically consumes fewer resources than running a busy production system. So you can typically do that cheaper on cloud and then just ramp up your compute, ramp up your memory even in certain cases if you need to switch over. So hybrid disaster recovery allows more experimentation, more mobility, ultimately gives you more options across more providers. So I'll hand over to Vijay now for the heavy duty section. He's going to give us a quick introduction into what TDE is on Oracle Cloud, and we'll take it from there.
Well, thanks, Alex. Thanks for the introduction. And yeah, it is indeed a major advantage with hybrid cloud, having your workloads on-premise and then having your DR in an out-of-region cloud environment is always beneficial as well. So when it comes to OCI, it provides several advantages. One is built-in TD encryption that is enforced by default in OCI, especially for DBCS. This is enforced by default for both enterprise and standard edition because ASO license is not included with your enterprise edition, but it has to be purchased separately. But with cloud, it is included with DBCS. And pay-as-you-go licensing when using OCI is it's a hourly billing. And it includes both your infrastructure and your license cost as well. This is very, very important, as so everything is clubbed together and you know what exactly that you're paying as well. And when it comes to operational speed and consistency, the build time for your OCA DBCS environment is around 30 minutes. It's easy to, it's completely wizard driven and easy to build your environment faster as well. Oops. Yeah, so when it comes to OCA, we have two different types of infrastructure. We are not talking about autonomous databases or Exadata services. We are talking about only OCA compute and OCA based database services. So when it comes to OCA compute, it's bare metal or VM-based database where you have full control of your OS and Oracle installation. So the Oracle installation is done by you, and patching and maintenance is managed by you, and Oracle licenses bring your own license. So there are options that are available with include license, but mostly it is bring your own license. The backups can be managed directly from OCA console. And for this OCA compute, both Linux and Windows are supported. When it comes to OCA-based database service, the database is pre-built for both SE and Enterprise Edition. Patching and lifecycle are managed by OCA console. With just a click of a button, you could patch your systems for both your grid infrastructure, your database, and everything can be patched. And the main thing is Oracle licenses included, or you can bring your own license as well. The one key thing is this is only available in Linux platforms. I have not seen any Windows platform with based database services. And so these are the two main aspects when it comes to OCA infrastructure as services. Yeah. And when it comes to base database services, as I have already said in the previous slide, the TD is enforced. So any database that is created in your OCA DBCS environment is encrypted. So until 19.16, it requires TDE to ensure that your standby, the on-premise environment or any kind of environment that you are creating outside of the cloud is encrypted as well. So because data file has to be encrypted on both primary and standby, and so when you're encrypting your data files on your primary, which is an on-premise environment, what happens is you need an ASO license, which is advanced security option. And this is available only for Enterprise Edition. The ASO license is not available for Standard Edition to be purchased. So this is very, very important. So anything that comes from your, if your primary is encrypted or if primary is not encrypted, if your standby is encrypted, you cannot have this mix and match before 19.16. And this poses a lot of problems because there is no hybrid configuration possible under these scenarios. Even if it is can be done, once the switchover is done, it would be impossible to bring it back to its original configuration. And when it comes to hybrid standby configuration, past 19.16, there was a parameter that was introduced called as table space encryption, which had a parameter called, which had an option called as a decrypt only. So this would ensure that any parameter that has encrypted in your, for example, if your OCA becomes your primary and your standby becomes your on-premise environment, what happens is with your table space encryption parameter set to decrypt only, you could decrypt all the changes that are encrypted in your OCA environment. So with this scenario, replication is possible in both the directions, like from on-premise to OCA and OCA to on-premise. You can do a failover, switchover. You can recreate your standby database, and new data files are also created, can also be created with this parameter. So for example, if you create a new data file or table space uh, on your OCA environment, which is encrypted, in your on-premise environment, it will be unencrypted. So there is one particular patch which is very, very important when it comes to this. I think we already discussed in a previous presentation where from 19.27 onwards, we recommend, because there is a single patch which is required for previous versions. From 19.16 to 19.27, there is a patch that is required to ensure that if you're going to recreate your standby database in your on-premise environment, that patch has to be applied so that the database that is being created is created as a decrypted database. Even with all those Oracle fixes, and the hybrid environment remains operationally complex because there are a lot of moving parts involved. For example, you need to create your TDs, you need to ensure that the TD is copied, you need to create your wallets, you need to create your standby database, you have to ensure that all the parameters are properly set. So, but With dbvisit, we have ensured that all these parameters are taken care and we are removed the entire complexity out of this. So let's look at the demo aspect of it now. So what I've done here is I have created a video of this presentation of the demo, and let's go through this video and then we can see how easily it is done. So I have your on-premise environment here. So on-premise environment is called WebPrem1 and the OCI environment is called WebOCI1. So my version is 19.30. So the first and foremost thing that I do is my database name is test01 and I have a PDB called as test01 PDB1. So both the PDB is open read write mode. And once this is done, the next step to do is to ensure that I create my wallet keys. So this wallet keys has to be created in a specific location, which is done by default with dbvisit. So we created them in etc. But before doing that, we have to ensure that there are certain parameters are set or not. First is your wallet root parameter. So if you see here, my wallet root parameter is not set. And at the same time, my table space encryption parameter. So by default, for an on-premise environment, the table space encryption parameter is set as manual enable. So, but this parameter has to be reset to decrypt only, which will be done by dbvisit when you run a standby database creation. Or you could do it manually as well when you have a specific downtime. But before that, as a prerequisite before even creating DDC, we do certain things. One is to create the locations of your uh, wallet keys and wallet location. So what I'm going to do is by default, we create it in /etc Oracle key store. So I'm creating these directories in both my primary environment, which is on premise, and also in my OCI environment as well. So I create a Oracle folder and also a key store folder and ensure that the key store folder is accessible by Oracle. So I do the same for my OCI environment as well. So if you see here, I have created the directories and also changed the permission. And let's look at this. So my Oracle directory here is owned by root, but if you look at the key store directory, the key store directory will be owned by Oracle. So my wallet keys for my both on-premise and my OCI environment will be stored under etc Oracle key store with Oracle SID and a TDE directory. So this is where, so both my on-premise environment and OCI environment, I've created this location. This is one of the prerequisites that is required. And this is where by default, we create your encryption keys. So once that is done, I'm going to create my configuration. So I'm using 12.3.1. So I'm selecting my primary host, WebPrem1, and then and then choosing my database that is running on WebPrem1, that is test01. And then I'll choose my WebOCI. Here you see that we have detected that you're using OCI as your standby database. So we automatically detect that. And we also have to ensure that both my ARC source and ARC desk location are properly created or not. So this is also one of the prerequisites. A lot of time people forget about this. Even if it's not an OCI environment, a lot of times people forget and they start using the default archeolog location, or while DDC creation itself, this errors out. So here I'm ensuring that I have my location created. And the U01 app Oracle dbvisit arc test01 location is the default location provided by us. But we always ask customers to choose a location where you have enough free space available on your standby database server to accommodate all the archive logs that are being copied from your primary to standby. Because on your primary, this particular location will always be empty. And then I ensure that I have my standby dbvisit base directory set up properly or not. And then once that is done, I'm going to provide a 30-day trial key. to ensure that I can create the configuration and everything. So these are some of the basic things that are necessary, even if you are running an OCI environment or a non-OCI environment for your standby database, whether it's hybrid or not. You have to ensure that these are available. So I'm providing with a 30-day license key. Now I've created a configuration. So once this configuration is created, as you can see, the next step is to create my standby database. So my on-premise is my primary, which is WebPrem1 test01 database. Now I'm creating a standby database for it. So here comes the part where DBVisit takes care of most of the complexities that are involved with your hybrid environment. The first and foremost thing that is very important is your TD wallet passwords. So we cannot insist enough that this password has to be a complicated password and you cannot forget this password. So here I'm going to enter a complicated password, but the password which I know and I have to remember. So you have to store this password in a completely separate place and do not forget this password. Even if you forget this password, you can never decrypt your environment.
Yeah, we always say this, but it seems strange in 2026 to, to require that people remember something that they can never ever forget.
Yes.
It's like something, yeah, it's like something from the crypto world. But yes, this password is very, very important. You need to make sure you remember it.
Yes, and for example, here I have given DBvisit $1 to $3, so you can feel free to use it, but I would not recommend using that password.
Yes, real world passwords should be just a little bit stronger than that.
Yes. So now what I'm doing is I'm trying to find a location on both my primary and standby to hold my backups. So for example, in my primary, under home Oracle, I have enough free space available, so I'm using the same directory. But on my standby OCI environment, the home directory does not have much free space. So I'm going to use a location called as U01 app Oracle. Under that location, I have around 170 GB free there. So I'm going to use that particular create a directory and then use that particular location for my backups. So when it comes to DB visit, so these locations are very, very important as well. Ensure that you have enough free space available before providing these locations. So we take a compressed RMAN backup. So if your database is, let's say 100 gig, usually it comes down to 30 or 40 gig, but ensure that you have enough free space available for this. This is a very important step as well. So now what I'm doing is I'm checking all the proper parameters are properly set. So one of the key parameters that I have to set is my DB unique name. So why did I pause this here is it's very imperative that when you create your OCI DBS environment, please, so you will create it with an empty database and then after that you will drop that empty database in your DBS environment so that using DBvisit you can create a proper standby database. But ensure that you retain your DB unique name because the DB unique name is tied with your OCI environments. So for you to apply your patches and everything, this unique name is tied up very tightly. So you have to ensure that this unique name is same as the one that you used when you are provisioning your DBCS environment. So I'm giving all the default parameters and now what I'm doing is I'm going to create my standby database. So now what happens here is there are multiple steps that usually are done even in your enterprise edition setups. These steps are done manually. So the first step being, so when I created a location, right, for my wallets. So what will happen is it will create a wallet location. It will create my key configuration file, all my wallets in my on-premise environment, and then copy that particular wallet from my primary to standby. And then what it does is it will also create my standby database. As you know, the standby database creation is a three-step process, right? The first step is the backup. The second step is a transfer. And then the third step is nothing but the restoration of your databases. So what dbvisit does is it does all these three steps in parallel. So it's like a similar to your duplicate database where everything happens in parallel. So dbvisit does that as well in parallel. So here, if you see here, my backup, transfer, and apply happens in parallel. Apart from that, I also ensure all the parameters that are needed for my both primary and standby are set. That's the reason you can see that I'm restarting my primary database because I have to set parameters for my wallet and also reset my tablespace encryption parameter to decrypt only, which is very, very important. So one question arises. If I don't have a downtime during my CSV process, can I do this step in a different time? Yes, you can. You can set your tablespace encryption, your key, what do you say? You can set up your wallets and your key configuration files in a completely different time. dbvisit will recognize it and it will automatically help you with the CSV process. So you don't have to do it at the time of this, but you should be able to remember the password when you're configuring your CSV. So this is one thing which is very, very important. So ensure that you do ensure that you do this at the time of CST because the primary will be restarted. So you have to get a proper downtime or do it prior to that. So now my CSD process is completed. Now what we can do is the next step is to see whether my parameters are set properly and whether my um, uh, tablespace encryption parameters, all my wallet locations are set correctly or not. Here, what I've used, I've used all my default parameters, like my automated standby update is set to default 10 minutes, my observers on, and all those things are set to default location. Here, as you can see, my primary is on and my standby is recovery. So now let's look at my on-premise environment. So the first and foremost thing is to check whether my wallets and my tablespace encryption is set properly. So my tablespace encryption parameter is set to decrypt only on my primary. And now let's check my wallet keys. So this is also set correctly. In my OCI environment, so now my standby is up and running. Now, what I have to do is I'll have to verify whether the parameters in my OCI are set properly or not. So here, the most important thing is my tablespace encryption parameter will be by default set to auto enable. This parameter cannot be changed to any other value in OCI. Even if you try to change it to any other value, it will be reset back to its original value. So you cannot change it to any other value. It will automatically be set only to auto enable. And even if you try to change, it's not going to work out. So in OCA, it will be set to default auto enable. So it means anything that is created newly, it will be all my data files and table space will be encrypted. And let's look at the wallet keys here. So under TD directory, if you look at all my wallet keys are present, wallet files are present. So same in my primary as well. So these keys are generated in the primary and are copied to my standby location. But the wallet keys that are generated in the primary is not used to encrypt anything on my on-premise primary database. That's the key thing. So I'm using my wallet, but I'm not using it to encrypt anything on my primary database. Now let's look at what are my data files and table spaces, whether anything is encrypted or not. So for my PDB, if you can see that, nothing is encrypted here. But here what happens is when I initially run this particular query, it will show everything as unencrypted, but it takes a little bit time because it has to send the first archelog so that everything is encrypted on the OCI environment. So I run this command again, and then you can see that it will be set to encrypted now. So Again, both my pluggable databases are encrypted on my OCI, but my container database and my seed database are not encrypted. And Oracle says that you can leave it as such as well. So it does not say that you have to encrypt everything. But if you want to encrypt everything, we recommend encrypting all the data, even your container database as well. You can just encrypt it by running the altered data table space command or data file command to encrypt a specific files on your OCI environment. So next important thing that we do is let's create a table space on my on-premise environment and see if it is um creating the same table space in my OCI environment as an encrypted table space or as an unencrypted table space. So I'm creating a table space called as test. So since my automated standby update is, and you can see here, so the test table space is unencrypted. Since what I'm doing is my automated standby update is 10 minutes. So I'm just sending and applying manually so that not to wait for the automated standby update to kick in every 10 minutes. So now, if I run the same command on my OCI environment, so you see the test table space is created as a encrypted file. So which is very, very important. So from my on-premise primary is unencrypted and my OCI standby is encrypted by default. So the real test is to run a graceful switchover. See, when my OCI environment becomes primary, what happens to my on-premise environment? Whether can I send and apply logs as it is? What happens if I add a new table space in my OCI environment? How it's going to react and everything. That's when the true power of this decrypt only option of my table space encryption parameter comes into play, where anything that is created on my OCI environment as encrypted will automatically be created as a unencrypted file in my standby database. And if you look at the environment that I'm currently running, the environment I'm currently running is my on-premises in Prague, in Czechia, and my OCI is in Ashburn, US. So it's geographically very far away as well. So, and I'm having an out-of-region DR environment using dbvisit with a hybrid configuration. So let's run a graceful switch over here. So the reason why we insist on OCI with hybrid environment is much more what do you say, a go-to for your disaster recovery systems are mainly, as I said, it's an out-of-region environment. Wherein if you are going to create an on-premise out-of-region system, it is very complicated and it involves a lot of cost. For example, you need to invest on a separate data center, separate servers, provision those servers, get a network connectivity, and all those things are involved when it comes to a out-of-region DR in an on-premise environment. But if you want a quick DR environment in out-of-region, DBCS is the place to go to because the license is automatically taken care by Oracle, and the environments can be provisioned in such a way that you can have your DR environments scaled down to a lower value. So, for example, if your on-premise environment has 4 CPUs, you could have a DR environment with one more CPU and then scale down such a way that you can scale up when it becomes a primary. So that reduces your cost as well. So here I have completed my Grace switchover. My primary is now Web OCI 1 and my standby is Web Prem 1. So my reverse synchronization is happening. Now what we can do is let's see if I can create a table space in my OCI primary environment and then see if I send and apply logs, whether my on-premise environment, the table space is created as an encrypted file or an unencrypted file. So in my OCI, I can see that my test PDB1 is read right now. So the next step would be to create a table space. And when we think about this, if you look at it, we are just verifying whether all my uh, files are encrypted or not in my primary and standby. So now I can run everything this. And my on-premise environment, which is my standby now, everything is unencrypted as well. Even after grace switchover, nothing changed here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a table space, and then this table, let's look at this, and then see what happens when I send and apply logs after the table space is created. So GS test table space is encrypted in my OCI environment, which is my primary. And again, I have to send and apply logs. The bit of lag that you see is because the environments are in two different geographical locations and I'm sitting in New Zealand and running this. Let's go to my on-prem and then run the same query again. See the GS test, the table space is not encrypted. So this is proof that even if you're running a graceful switchover and your OCI environment becomes production, all the data files and table space that are created in your OCI is encrypted. Your standby database, because of the table space encryption parameter into decrypt only, it is created as a unencrypted file. And the table space encryption parameter precedes the encrypt new table space parameter from 19.16 onwards. By default, it takes only table space encryption parameter and it no longer validates the encrypt new table space parameter. And as you can see, in my OCI environment, the table space encryption parameter is auto-enabled by default. So these are the main things that we need to ensure that we do when it comes to hybrid environment. With the data guard, this works as similar with the data guard as well. But with DB Visit, we reduce the complexity by taking much of the load, like creating your encryption keys, transferring your encryption keys, creating a DI environment. Everything is done by DB Visit, which is easily, what do you say, done in a couple of clicks. And if you want to, this is a small command. For example, if you want to check whether you remember your encryption keys or not, that is your password or not, you can run a command orapk wallet display and provide the password. It will display all the certification and encryption keys for you. So this is a small command that you can use to you can run to validate this. So this is the main demo that I wanted to show you with respect to hybrid environments. Uh, And at the same time, I have the live environment here as well with me. So for example, this is the live environment that is currently running with OCI being the primary and WebPrem1 being the standby. And as you can see that the environment works very well and even with the geographically different places because the DB visit works on low bandwidth and high latency networks. It does not have any issues with syncing up with your standby as well. Yeah. Let's get back to the presentation and these are the main things that I wanted to show you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Vijay, we had a whole bunch of questions come in. I've answered them already, but one thing I think it's worth spending a little bit more time on is can we just give a little bit more detail around what happens if the wallet passwords are different between systems? So because I know that we have a whole bunch of checks in place to try and prevent people from from this exact scenario, from having different wallets and different passwords between various systems.
Mhm.
So can you just perhaps spell out exactly what happens in the different scenarios? So for example, if you already have a wallet created on your primary,
Mhm.
but not created on your standby, what happens?
Mhm. Oh, so what we do is we use the existing wallet
So
to trans.
if the wallet already exists on primary, we ask you for the password, right? We
Yes,
validate that the password is correct, and then we
correct.
create the standby system using that wallet.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So what happens if there's no wallet?
We create the wallet.
So we ask you for a password, and then we use that password to
We
create the
create.
wallet.
Yes.
Okay. So what happens then, the last possible option is what happens if you on your standby system already have a wallet that's got a different password from the one that's on primary?
Okay, so the standby systems, which is in OCA, must be completely, the slate must be completely clean. So you have to remove everything. So we even, so when you create your DBCS system, there is a default database that is created. So that database has to be dropped and your wallet keys has to be removed. So we don't use that at all. So there's the reason why we don't use it is because we create everything new in your on-premise environment. That's why we don't use the ones that are created in your DBCS environments.
Now, is that a requirement, what you just said there, is that a requirement from us or is that a requirement from Oracle?
So usually, so ideally speaking, we would recommend doing that. If you think, no, I don't, because DBWizard takes care of everything from a wizard, it takes care of everything. So if you want to use the same encryption key, same password and everything, what you have to do is you have to copy the keys from your primary location and put it in your standby, and then use the same key password for your when you're creating a CSD. So that's what you have to do. So you have to reverse copy it again so that we copy back into a OCI environment in a different location. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that we do. Ideally speaking, it's not necessary for you to do that, but at the same time, we would recommend um, creating it fresh from your on-premise environment so that it is clean. Otherwise, you just copy the encryption keys from your existing OCI location to your on-prem location. From on-prem, we copy back to the location that we specifically ask you to copy to. That is the
Mhm.
ETC Oracle key store location. Because we don't work with any other location. By default, we that's the only thing that we insist is to the ETC Oracle key store location is the only location that we insist that you have to have that. Anyway.
So that sounds like it's not an Oracle requirement. It's just our
Yes,
fervent recommendation because if you
yes,
don't do this, you get into quite a lot of trouble.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. All right. There you go. So we've got a whole bunch of other questions coming in. Let's maybe go with Stefano here is asking, are the prerequisite steps to take on the OCI side documented? So what he means by that is, for example, you were just talking about how there's a default database that needs to be dropped and before you create a standby database using our software. So are the steps to do that documented?
Yes, everything is documented in the documentation. As you can see here, the documentation is very, very, what do you say?
Can you just grab the URL for that and just type it into the QA as an answer to Stefano's question? I think that'll be the easiest way forward.
Yes.
Perfect. All right.
Uh,
And then and then another question is uh, I'm curious about compression and for planning purposes, what factor to use to plan for storage. Um, So I think the question there is around how much compression do we really, how much does the full backup really compress? It's probably going to be
yes.
quite hard to answer this one because it depends on the kind of data that's in it.
And so usually what we say is RMAN compression, what we say is uh, if the database is, let's say, 1 TB, you at least have 1 TB free space available. But usually 500 GB is more than enough for you to take the backups. And usually the backups, the RMAN compressed backup comes to around somewhere around 200 to 300 GB, not more than that.
But again, that's surely that would depend on the data stored. Like if a database is
Exactly.
storing primarily text data, then it's going to compress a lot. If it's
Yes.
storing a lot of binary data, then
Yeah, if it's a
it
lot
is
of
going to be.
B lobs and B files, it's going to be a lot. Yeah.
Eva, it's difficult to give a definitive answer there. The recommendation I would have is if this is important for your use case, then our create standby database action in our product has an option to basically stop halfway. It has an option to stop after the full backup on primary is created and allow you to actually take that backup, look at how big it is, move it over to standby manually, and then continue the process from there.
Yeah.
So I would try and do that in your use case because that will allow you to actually check exactly how much compression you get in your specific use case. So another question we have is around using Standby multi-platform for ERP as a service. So if a vendor provides a fully hosted stack, whoop, it just went away as I was reading it.
Sorry.
If a vendor provides a fully hosted stack, would I be able to manage recoverability, or is this handed off to the vendor? Having a little bit of trouble with this one, VJ. Do you have an idea as to what the question is there?
So see, when it comes to, so we work completely different from your application vendors, right? But what we say is managing the entire stack together. For example, managing your entire DR stack together, you can do it with DBVisit and OCI using FSDR, full stack disaster recovery. That you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So that can be done easily, and we have
That,
expanded documentation for
It's
that.
actually a great moment to mention that. So one thing we haven't covered in this webinar, just for lack of time, is on Oracle Cloud, we fully integrate into their FSDR, full stack disaster recovery framework. And again, on the documentation site that VJ linked to, you can find information on that.
And at the same time, managing disaster recovery, specifically the DR component of TB visit, is much very easy and straightforward. And if you are an end customer having a vendor who manages your ERP stack, you can hand it over to them. But a lot of our partners, a lot of our customers and partners, they manage themselves because it's the environment is easy to manage. As you can see, the standby database creation, the graceful switchover process are very transient and very easy to perform as well.
Yeah, I think the short answer there, to the degree that I understand the question, um, I think the short answer is that it can basically be both. It just depends on what you would prefer and on exactly how involved that process is, specifically in your stack. You say if the vendor provides a fully hosted stack, that can kind of mean a number of things. If you'd like to have a discussion about this, I'm very happy to jump on a call with you, Eva. Just reach out to me. My email is simply alex@dbvisit.com. just flick me a quick message, and we'll see if we can take it from there. We got more questions coming in. So, question is hybrid DI with our product only supported from version 12.2 or 12.1? And I'm just Googling it in our docs now, Vijay. I think 12.2 was the OCI hybrid
Yes.
release,
Yeah.
right?
12.2 was the one where we introduced hybrid.
Yeah, so it's from version 12.2 onwards. And then we have not a question, but a suggestion about how to handle big databases in OCI, given that amount can be extended in DB system. Any questions from anyone else? Now's a great time. Thanks, Vijay. That was good. It's interesting. I mean, just following what you were saying, it's not the most straightforward process in the world, and yet I know just how much better it is than if someone tried to do this without our software. Basically, like if it's not it's not the simplest thing in the world right now, but without all of the many automation steps that our software does, this really becomes something that only absolute expert DBAs should even attempt.
Even if you have to create your Standby database back into, for example, if you activate your OCI environment and then recreate your Standby database back into on-prem environment with DataGuard, even with DataGuard, it is complicated because you have to run the restore manually as a decrypted restore. So, but with dbvisit, we take care of that as well. So we ensure that it is done automatically, restored as decrypted directly. So that you don't have to worry about doing that, doing a manual operation in that front as well. With DataGuard, it's not the case because everything has to be specifically restored as a decrypted database before even starting the restoration process, recovery process of archlogs. With dbvisit, that's straightforward as well.
Yeah, we also have a whole bunch of kind of guidance steps in the middle of all that, just to do pre-checks or make sure that you're not making any mistakes as you go through it, which is good if you want to get things right first time. Looks like that's all the questions we have, Vijay. So let's wrap it up. Do you want to go back to the presentation for a sec?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
There we go. So these are things that we always say at the end of webinars, but I think they're important to just mention. Please do review and update your Oracle version. Both for the purposes of what we've been talking about, but also just generally, it is very important that you try and keep your Oracle versions up to date. Please do that. You'll make your own lives easier, and we'll appreciate you for it. Please do understand the TDE barrier between on-premise and OCI. It's something that we've found catches out quite a few people, even very experienced people. Oracle Cloud is an amazing platform for many things. And we do encourage you to explore it, but this limitation is important to understand because without it, you might spend considerable amount of time setting something up in the OCI environment, only to find that you can't interface with it, interact with it from your on-premise environment. So please do read up on this. And finally, please do trial dbvisit Standby. If you go to our website, there's a big try button in the top right-hand corner. Please do click that and give our product a chance, play around with it. We've also got a test drive that you can play with, that you can interact with without having to install anything yourself. You just click a button and we bring up a cloud environment in about 2 minutes for you with everything pre-installed and pre-configured. You can just play with our software, see what happens, see what it does. See if you like it or not, and take it from there. Let's leave it there, folks. Thank you again very much for joining us. It's always great to share knowledge with people in the community and to see the answers and to see the questions. Sorry that come up. Thanks very much, and you will get the presentation again just after we finished, so you will be able to review all this at your own pace. And I hope we'll see you again real soon.
See you then. Bye bye.